All right, so this video is just a vector field follow-up, just a little bit of extra practice for vector fields. So I'll just go through it, and it starts with the identifying or analyzing vector fields by matching it, the vector field through the equation, matching it to the graph, which is on page 2. So there's our 4 graphs. That's what we have to work with. But remember, when we analyze graphs, we are just simply taking the x, y grid and identifying by quadrant what's happening. So in this problem, the original x is positive and positive here and here. Doing that thing again where my pen isn't always going to stick. Okay, so the new x is the old x squared, so that's going to be positive. The new y is just the old y, so that's also positive. Back here we had x was negative and our y was positive. In our new endpoint, when we evaluate the field, our negative is squared, so that becomes positive, and our y is still just positive. Okay, now we have negative and negative. That still gets squared, so our x is still positive, but our y is negative. And here we have x was positive and it's squared, and our y is still negative because it's down below. So we're just taking the old x and squaring it each time. So that means our x is always going to be positive. No matter what quadrant we're in, we're just squaring it. Here, the y of the old equation is the y of our new. So whatever our y is in the original, the standard quadrant, it's still the same thing for the ending point. So what that means is positive, positive means right and up. Positive, positive, right and up. Here it's right and down, and here's right and down also. So we're looking for something that is always pointed to the right, but in the top half it's pointed up, and the bottom half the arrows are pointed down. So if we look at our options, this B over here is some of them are pointing left, and C, some of them are pointing left. Well, A kind of looks like it could work because everything's pointed to the right. The problem is it's flip-flopped. Remember, our equation graph analysis says the top is pointing up, bottom's down. So that's exactly the opposite of what we need. So A doesn't work from that side of things. D does match everything. So top half pointed to the right and up, bottom half pointed right and down. So I'd come back up here and say the answer is graph B. Then we're going to match number 2, so we're going to come back. Here, our new x is the original x squared and then a negative in front. So what that actually tells me, no matter where I'm at, I'm going to take my value and square it, which takes my positive x, turns it positive, and then flips it negative, right? So x squared, positive squared, but then we get a negative in front. Same thing over here. We were x in the negative, but we squared it, so that's a positive x. And then we still put a negative in front. Same thing here, negative, but we square it, turns positive, and then we get negative out front. I can tell you that's negative too because we took positive squared and threw a negative in front. So all of our x's are negative. Here, though, our y was positive because we're in the first quadrant. Here it says our new y is the old y with a negative in front, so that's negative. Here our y is positive, but the new y for our terminal point is negative because it was positive and we threw a negative in front. Here it's the opposite because our y was negative, we're down below, but a negative y with a minus in front gives us positive. So same thing holds there. So That means all of these point left. They're all x's are negative. And then this one, negative is down, so our y is down. Here it's up, and here it's up. So let's look for a graph on page 2 where everything points left, and then they all kind of converge towards the axis, right? Because the top is pointed down, bottom's pointed up. Well, we know it's not D because we already answered D. Oh, everything's pointed left. Okay. Well, it's not A. It's definitely not B. Well, let's look at C to make sure. C, everything's pointed left, and the top's pointed down, and the bottom's pointed up. So, answer for number 2. Answer for number 2 is C. Okay. Number 3. On. All right, y squared minus y. So now the original x was positive, but we don't really need to worry about what happened to x in any quadrant because all we're evaluating is our original y. So the ending x term looks at our original y and squares it. So our x here is going to have to be positive. X here is going to have to be positive. Right? X here is going to have to be positive and positive. Hopefully you see that. If you want to pause and think about it, you can. But the reason I can guarantee all 4 quadrants x is positive is because we're taking a number, our old y, and squaring it. So no matter what the number was, it's squared, it's positive. Here, our y's actually flip because if y was positive to begin with, in our new equation, the y term is negative. So this y was positive, it turns negative. This y was positive, it turns negative. Down below, the y's were negative, but we have negative, negative, so that's a positive and positive. So these are everything to the right. And then these are down, down, up, up. So everything points to the right. And then we're pointing to the right, but we're converging to the middle because the top's pointed down, bottom's pointed up. So let's look at everything to the right, and it converges to the middle. Well, we've gotten D and C as answers, so we just need to look at A and B, and look at that. A has everything pointed to the right. This one does not, B does not, and top points down and the bottom points up. So we've got answer here is A. And our last one, our X term is now looking at the old Y. So here Y was positive, and here Y was positive. Here Y was negative and negative. So that represents our X. Now here I can tell you with confidence everything's positive. And again, think about why I know that. I know that because if I take my original X, whether it was positive or negative, I square it. So my new Y term will always be positive. So that gives us right, right, left, left. Our Y's are always pointed up because it's always positive. So this one almost creates a swirl maybe, but by default we should check it anyways, but it should be B, D, C, A, now B. So if we look at that, we can see both at the same time. Top is pointed to the right, and it's always pointing up here and up here. And bottom is always pointing left, which is true. And then it's always pointing up as well. So there gives us our answer B. So there it is. Okay, sorry about that. Keep moving the screen. I better make a part 2. I'll do part 2 for this where we evaluate and graph it, but that's the first part of that review